Your magnetic self is already inside of you. What is in the way?
That energy that you're arriving at, it's really how to be authentic. From that place, you can manifest anything. From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. What to do in time of transition. Whether you are in a rock bottom, you just jumped off a cliff, you're in an up level, maybe even a magic dark. But what do you do when you're asking to move through your growth edge and become a new version of self? How do you navigate? What tools do you look at? How do you understand what is going on? And how do you reconnect with who you truly are, your true magnetic self inside? In today's episode, Lacy and I are really unpacking what is going on during those transitional periods and how during that time it is some of the most fertile magnetic energy you can work with towards your manifestations. When you are peeling back the layers of not self, dropping things off, clearing space, letting things go, you're opening the door to new things ahead. You just have to ground into your internal sense of self in order to do so. And this brings me to our summer challenge. Every year we have a big manifestation challenge at the top of the year around the winter. And in the summer, we peel back the layers to get deeper and unblock in one specific category. This year, we are unblocking all the things that are standing in the way of connecting with our true magnetic self. Our authentic self, our highest self, the self that is truly within us, but just blocked by shadow and inner child and programming. We are going to do a 6-week challenge where we are going to walk you through how to connect with true high self-worth, true confidence, meeting your magnetic self, integrating your shadow, reclaiming your self-worth so it's not marred down by external validations or approval of others, bringing your intuition back online and stepping through your fears so you can start connecting with your true soul desires and manifestations from a place of deservingness and high self-worth. We are kicking off on June 16th. If you're a Pathway member, it will be free and dropped into your portal. If you are not yet a Pathway member, now is the time to join because we have our big summer sale going on where you can spin the spinner and lock in the lowest rates of the season. So check out the show notes, learn more about this Magnetic Self Challenge and the journey we're going to go on this year, and get ready to feel like a completely different person on the other side, one that is truly in touch with and connected with their magnetic self.
And now, a word from our partners.
Not all probiotics are created equal. There are a million different products on the market promising to fix, rebalance, restore, reset your gut microbiome and gut barrier. But how many of them actually do? So many are not grounded in science, and that is why we are such fans of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. They are a 2-in-1 pre and probiotic capsule that actually reaches the gut. They are the most science-backed probiotic on the market. They're a team of experts, some of which who even coined the original term probiotic, are rigorous about their research, testing, and the quality assurance of their product. Probiotics are fragile and sensitive to heat, oxygen, light, moisture, which makes it really hard for them to fully get to the part of the digestive tract that they support the most. That's why Seed created the VitaCap. It's their proprietary capsule and capsule delivery system, which helps get 100% of the probiotic strains to the part of the digestive system that impacts it the most, which is why Seed is such an effective probiotic. And that is why I make sure to take my Seed 2 capsules first thing in the morning with a cup of lemon water to start off my day. It has made such a difference in my digestive health, my gut barrier integrity, my gut immune function, and it's even had an incredible impact on my skin. So if you're looking for a probiotic that actually works, you can use the code TBM for 30% off your first month supply of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. Again, that is code TBM for 30% off your first month supply. You can check out the link in the show notes or go to seed.com/TBM.
All right, on to the episode.
Welcome, Lacy. How are you doing?
Great. I'm so excited for this conversation. It seems like it's a really pertinent one.
So this is a theme that comes up in our community often. It's really about the transitional phase. It's when you've jumped off a cliff, maybe you let something go, maybe you were rock bottomed and something let you go. And now you're kind of in the liminal space of now what? How do I manifest? How do I boost my magnetism? What do I do? How do I get out of this rock bottom? What fills this space of in between? And we're going to dive into a little protocol and way you can look at it and how to move through it. So Lacy, when you've come up against this and when this has happened for you, how do you view it? Because I also think the mindset in which why it's happening is so important as well.
Yeah, I think the really important thing to name it, you called it the in-between. It's that uncomfortable space in between, or people have heard me talk about it. It's like when you're in the small crab shell and you haven't found your big one and you're in between. And I think lately it's sounding like from our community and certainly myself, it feels a little amplified and a little scary. If I really put my finger on it for people, they probably feel like, oh no, the rug's being pulled out from under me, or I'm being punished, or good stuff was happening and now bad stuff is happening. And the first couple of things I really want to say is that the sun will always shine again, and that this is actually happening for you, not against you. And so that's a really important concept to just digest for a minute, because what's really, really happening is that you're up leveling. Your version of up leveling might look a little bit different than the person beside you or your accountability partner or what you're hearing in the community, because we're all on our own authentic journeys of getting back into our whole worthy, authentic selves. So for some people, it can look like a little bit of an up level and then a rock bottom's kind of hitting you at the same time. And so in that energetic case, you get these things that are hitting you. And what they're really doing is hitting your pinpoint. So a great way of looking at that is you're up leveling, but not fast enough that you're not going to completely rock bottom, but the universe is going to be like, you need to jump out of this nest, because the thing that is trying to connect with you is orbiting much closer to you than you are raising your self-worth to connect with it. So I think that that's a really good overview that we can all kind of lean into. If you are in this in-between space, it's because what you want is orbiting around you and you're being called to mature. This is happening for you, not against you. Like, I just really want people to understand that the sun is going to shine again. You're playing with your own personal magic. That's what this work is. It's what living is. It's what being a person is. Your magic. You're playing with your magic. And so in that magic, you're learning how to connect with the thing that's trying to connect with you while still being in the physical experience, because we all have this programming that's like, the rug's being pulled out from under me. Something's going to happen that's going to be bad. Something's going to go wrong. I don't know about you, but when I'm in the in-between space, I'm like hiding under, I feel like I want to hide under my bed, because I'm like, things feel raw. They feel unsafe. I feel anxious. I feel like everything that I thought I was holding on to as safety and security, I'm not able to hold on to it. So that's why I like the analogy of the small shell between the big shell. And in fact, the security, the safety, the everything is the universe holding you. It's actually like the most beautiful thing that's happening. You are being held by that. And once you do get back into that big shell, you connect with the manifestation, you get on the other side, the sun shining again. You're not going to be able to feel as closely the rawness of being held by the universe so fully until you're in the hindsight of it and seeing it. So that's just something that I really want people to digest as I'm like channeling and feeling into that space. I'm in it myself. I think a lot of people are being pushed and pulled into that space in this community because we all got off of that huge, incredible challenge we did back in December. And then we've continued the work along the way. And we're really gearing up to start, if we haven't already, connecting with our bigger manifestations. And that's why you can look inside of the group or, the community, and you're going to be hearing a lot of the same stories happening with people because we're on this journey together. So a lot of talking about that's the rawness of the in-between space that a lot of people are in. You're up leveling.
One nuance or thing I want to point out, which I see happen a lot too, is when people are like, here, the thing that you want is trying to connect with you. Like, that's why you're being asked to go through this. I think sometimes people are like, they're so specific to exactly what's on their list right now that sometimes the thing that wants to connect with them is even greater than they can see for themselves in the moment. And that's why that in between is so scary because you're like, wait, I don't even know what I'm going towards. When you look back, you're like, oh, that was so for my highest good. I'm in such a better place than I was had I held and attached to that old thing. But sometimes we don't even have crystallization of like what the next is, especially in relationships. Like I was talking about this on my story, this one expander couple I looked up to because they were, in the process of planning their wedding. From what I gather from the outside, and who knows, they're on social media, but from what I gathered, it seemed like one of them got the intuitive hit that they needed to be on their own, that they were not ready to take the next step into marriage. And so they decided to put a pause on their relationship and separate. But you can tell from kind of what she's sharing that she is like, I'm taking a massive leap of faith. It's not like there's another person on the other side. It's not like they had a bad relationship. She's just following that unknown. Even start to listen to the whispers of what that next thing could be too. Or is it just riding the magic of the unknown?
Well, I think the thing that I really want to double down on this with everybody listening, this has always been my motto, and it's very much true in manifestation work. That partner that she was going to marry isn't really her partner. The universe is. Your bank account, your job isn't really your job. The universe is your bank account. And yes, in the human experience, you are going to manifest those things in and you're going to have them. What I love about what you're sharing, that unknown is the most expansive and greatest place anyone can ever be in. Like when we talk about instant magnetism, that's that energetic of that space. It's the one where you're being asked to walk through a fear. You're being called to clear a space. You're being called to go to the next level. You're being called to do something. Who's calling you to do that? It's the universe. It's your soul. It's your authentic self is doing it. And most often than not, it's your programming societally, from media, from parents, from everything you've ever been told. It's going against that grain. Because again, the universe's only intention is to get back into your whole worthy, authentic self. So I hope that's not too abstract for people because I have manifested my partner. I'm with my partner. I have manifested my child. I have manifested my homes. I've manifested all of these things, but they aren't really those things for me. In the in between, when I was in the space that I didn't have those things, the universe was all of those things. And if any of those things go away, so that blind, unknown, that calling, that ping is what we can say it is. That's your authentic self, your soul, the universe guiding you. And so I think if people can find solace in knowing that when I say the sun will shine again and the big crab shell is coming and that it's all going to be good, in the in between, you're being held by the universe. That is your trust muscle. And so when you've just joined this community and you don't know about this work yet, and you haven't really gotten to see the magic of it yet, each time you're in that in between, or another terminology we'll use when you're close to your manifestation, which is what this in between also is energetically, a magic dark. That is when you are the closest to the universe. You're like breathing one with the universe because it is blind trust. And so the more that you continue to manifest after that space of the magic dark, we'll call it the in between, we'll call it the up level. It's all kind of variations of the same thing. You will have never been as spiritually connected as you are in that moment because it's your lifeline. You have to be. So that's just like the big piece I want people to know. And yes, we're going to share with you like what to do and how to do it. And you are going to connect with your manifestation. But upon connecting with your manifestation, on the other side of it, getting that job, getting that partner, seeing why the breakup happened, seeing why this thing had to fall off or you had to clear the space and now it's filled with something so much greater than even what you were calling in, you are going to look back at that space and feel, if you really meditate and really sit with it, you're going to be like, wow, nothing was as magical as that in between space. It was hard. It was raw. It was scary. I was anxious, but holy shit, I was breathing with the universe. I was like one-on-one with the universe. And that's what strengthening your trust muscle is. It's magic.
I love that. And I feel like that gives a lot of just peace of mind and like holding the community in that. I feel like just that knowing that it can feel and will feel hard and challenging, but you are held and there are things wanting to connect and speak with you and communicate with you and have you bring your internal system back online to reconnect with the world from a place of authenticity instead of programming and all of those pieces. What about the people who I had a few people write in said that tons of manifestation or my dream manifestation came through and then something else happened and it ripped it away, or one person the pattern was so strong and but it was a really easy example. She was like, I'm out of all of my toothpaste or her lotion or all the things that make her life joyful and easy. And like either the company shut down or they're out of stock and like she can't get those needs refilled again. What is going on there when it feels like kind of what you were saying in the beginning, what you used to lean on for safety isn't there? A lot of times people can be like, oh, I did something wrong or it's my block. But really, what's the gift of that shifting?
That's the bigger consciousness of what's really happening in these moments. Manifestation is so intelligent because as humans in the human body, we are so motivated by the next thing that we want. That's what we need for safety or to be loved. Those are the two greatest motivators, right? And so I myself have experienced this forever and continue to experience it. But the universe and manifestation, et cetera, it's so intelligent that it will bring you to the next thing to be filled in order to get you on your path and continue you closer to pulling the layers away to just become your truly authentic, whole worthy self, which is consciousness. It's like how you were born before programming. And so I think of the example of Marina, who was in that recent episode we did of unblocking. If you haven't heard it, we'll link it below. Really quick listen to somebody who manifested what they thought they wanted, right? She's a designer and she manifested the studio, like the beautiful studio, the thing. I've done this in so many aspects of my life before. Like 2018 was a great example. I was like on my greatest ascension to success. And the universe was like, this is ego. This isn't your authentic self. It doesn't mean, no, this isn't what you won't be teaching. And no, you won't be extremely rewarded for what you teach and what you want and your needs won't be met. All of that was happening. That's what manifestation is. It will always happen. However, it's not going to happen in the ways that your ego thinks it needs to happen to be fed, to be loved. And when you are saying, people don't realize that what you're going to receive is greater than what you're calling in, like letting go of that attachment. That attachment is the ego. And when we're saying that, it's not like, I always really want to clarify, it's not like old school Buddhism ego where it's like, you can't have material things. I don't mean that kind of level of detachment. You're a human in the human experience in the human body. You're going to have levels of ego. What we're talking about when we say ego is something that you're calling in to be loved, rather than what your authentic self is calling in for it to be fulfilled, what your soul came onto this planet to experience. That's what we mean when we say ego. So, like what you're saying is the perfect example of I got the job thing, I got the this, I got the whatever, and it was ripped away. So, like if we look back at Marina, she got the studio, right? And she like felt all the feelings of that. And then it was like, oh, my design stuff's starting to dry up. My jobs are drying up. And then we had that session with her and it was like, fuck, man, you got to let go of the studio. The studio is ego. Like it's your burden. And this doesn't mean you're not going to be this epic rewarded designer. I don't even know if we can share what she's gone on to manifest post. However, it's far greater than she thought what was coming was going to happen. The wave came again. And it was like, here's this design job that is, for what she shared. And we'll probably have a follow-up on that you guys will hear more about. But that is the perfect example of the in-between. If you are in the in-between, the discomfort right now, whatever you're having to let go of versus what you are calling in, or maybe you're unconsciously, you don't know what's coming next. If you can get very, very deeply clear on what is ego versus your true authentic self, again, I don't want you to go like, I can't want for anything. You can want for the greatest, biggest thing, but is your authentic self wanting it? Is that who's asking? Or is it the 5-year-old who's wanting to be loved? I have an example of this recently. Like, I actually have this with Max a lot because I think a really big component to what drives our relationship is that we're both hugely motivated by business and entrepreneurship. We love building things, both of us. And there's sometimes a piece of me when it gets too strong that I'm like, oh, I wonder if I'm being called to like really pull back on a lot of them and just be present as a mom for a while. It doesn't mean like giving everything away, but there's this piece that comes up that, will Max still love me? Will I have that validation? And that's where it's like, we need to be looking all around when we're in the in-between space at what is ego versus authenticity that's being called in. Because most often than not, like if I were to pare back in the way that I'm getting the ping to do it, doesn't mean letting everything go, but like focus in this specific way, don't give a shit what Max thinks or what anybody else thinks and just do it. That's when all of the great, big greatness comes.
So over the past few years, I've started to dip my toe into the world of facials. My skin feels absolutely fantastic after, but for some reason with my busy schedule, I can never regularly enough book a time for myself to go. So when Boncharge announced that they were coming out with a red light face mask, I was overjoyed because now I can get that same post-facial glow at home. The Boncharge face mask has both red light and near infrared light. So that means it is not just penetrating the surface of the skin, but it's getting deep into the tissues and cells of the skin to help produce more ATP efficiently. It is helping to create more elastin, more collagen, clearer skin, help with fine lines and wrinkles, uneven skin tone, acne, and you can utilize these benefits for just 10 minutes a day. I've been using it about 3 to 4 times a week for about 15 minutes each, and every time I use it, my skin feels better and better. I also notice I have a lot of sun damage from my early years in the tanning beds, and it seems to be lightening it ever so subtly. So I highly recommend it if you are looking for a treatment for your skin or your face at home that's easy, on the go, portable. You can just charge it and walk around with it, and something that you can utilize every single day. I also get crazy with it and I will turn it around and stick it on my neck. So if you don't have any other red light therapy device at home and you have certain muscle aches or pains or tensions, you can also put that red light on those certain areas of your body as well. So multidimensional. So if you want to try out Bond Charge's red light face mask, you can use the code magnetic, all caps, MAGNETIC for 15% off. Again, that's code magnetic, MAGNETIC for 15% off. And you can go to bondcharge.com or check out the link in the show notes. One other question that came up a lot, manifestation within partnerships. As someone may be pushed against their edge, they're jumping into this unknown, but they have a partner who maybe isn't at the same pace that they're at, or maybe what their ego has to pull back is different from what the other person's ego has to pull back. How do you recommend people approaching navigating in partnership? Like even how, as Daniel and I plan our wedding, we have had so many layers and blocks on both sides needing to go through and peel back. Okay, like I'm scared of forever commitment. Okay, got it. I'm going to go in and tackle that. Okay, next one. I'm scared of not having time for myself and I'm so lit up by my work that like I don't want to slow that down to like plan a wedding. Okay, got to work through that. You know what I mean? Like there's so many layers on both sides that we've had to go through, but how would you recommend, is it each person does their individual and then you kind of see where you're crossing over?
100%. Like that's exactly what has to happen because like as you know we can't manifest for the other person. You happen to be in like such a dream sitch where he does the work, he's on his path, he's wanting to grow. So you guys can talk about it, meet in the middle. But for most people they're not in that situation. And even if you are in that situation, you just have to look at your shit because it's your dance with the universe. Like again, the universe really is going to be your wedding. The universe is going to be your husband, you know, and you just happen to be on the material plane with another person who's growing with you in the same way. And also, even when people are in, this is like a more literal example, when people are in therapy together, right? It's often you should always have your own therapist to process the stuff with. It's your stuff that's coming up against somebody else's stuff. And the only way to go through that and ascend together is you have to deal with your stuff and they have to deal with their stuff that's coming up, and that will help you both continue to grow together. Or even in my, you know, my example with Max, like I really can't give a shit what he thinks. My real partner is the universe. My real journey is the universe, you know? And so if I'm being called to really, really step into my authentic self, which always happens in our relationship, he too will follow. He will also ascend in that way. He will understand it. It's my reflection that I have to do first, as well as his, in order to meet into that middle place. So that's just, and probably you have more insight on that because you guys have been doing it together.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, even the work element too. I remember like very early on in our relationship, there was a part of me that was scared to go super hard at work and like throw everything in and become immersed with it. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to not have time for my relationship. My relationship's going to falter, blah, blah, blah. And at that period, I was working through a lot of trust stuff. And when I was able to say, fuck it, like I cannot let myself play small. I know this is my passion. Like I know I want to go full force into doing this. And then when I did that, most amazing career opportunities presented. So it's like, if I were to play small to hang on to the level at which the relationship was at, it did a disservice to me, but it also did a disservice to the relationship because it's not trusting that the relationship can then match that next level and whatever that is.
You just nailed it. Like that's the piece, not trusting. Like by you playing small, the relationship's going to play small of the like the truest potential of where it can go, and obviously like where it's being asked to go. So that like you just nailed it. Like that's the thing. I'm even like always having to reassess that for myself, especially having a partner who doesn't do this work, like does his own form of work. So it's like being raised by a single mom and knowing like I would be just fine on my own. I have to continue to not play small, especially like what's being asked of me, you know, as I mature and as I ascend and with my gifts and stuff. If I play small, I won't even have, you know, making this more esoteric, I won't even have the aura to hold it. I have to go there. It, just as you said, just as everybody in a relationship has to. And that's where, if you have partnership that continues to play small while you're growing, that's usually when we're seeing people separate. And then, like anything, an even greater thing will fill that space. It's a really hard thing to hear and say, because so much, especially in society, and when you have family and children and stuff, really weighs on that. But the greatest gift you can do is to continue to grow. And then that's the invitation for the relationship and for the partnership to grow as well.
And it's interesting too, because like you said, it could shake out where you recognize, like, okay, it's not the match meant to be, but you would be surprised. Same how the universe has something greater for us that we can't even see for ourselves. The potential of the relationship could be so much deeper and better. You just are, your human mind is trying to control it and be like, no, 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 this is all I see. Like, there's no way it's going to get there. It's like, yeah, but if you actually go for the thing that you want, without shame, without, not from a place of ego, from authenticity, and you thought your partner couldn't meet you there, match you there, guess what? Now they're going to be, maybe their shadow might come up for a second, but they're going to be asked to say, okay, now this is the new normal. Are you going to grow or not?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And that's for every case of anybody that's in the in between, because, you're always in relationship with something energetically. So if you're in the in between, you're in the in between of something, right? So that's a job, that's a position, that's a home, how, like, there's so many things you can be in relationship with the in between. So, like, right now, your biggest invitation is to really get in touch with your authentic self. What is it communicating? What is the next step? And what is that versus ego? To be loved, to be safe, to be seen, to be cherished. Like, no. What is your authentic self really asking of you?
So that really leads us into the journey we're going to go on the rest of this year. We're really sitting down with this essence, and we talk about the highest self, the authentic self, and we talk about the magnetic self, but we really wanted to break it down and get it into an emotional essence within us that is integration of all of those pieces. It's the regulated part of us. It's the inner confidence. It's the high self-worth. It's something that is within us at all times that we need to peel back the layers to get to. It evolves over stages. And really, the next 6 months, the second half of this year, we're going to be launching activations, challenges, and really take you on a roadmap to reconnecting with your current version of your magnetic self.
Yeah, we sat down internally and we're like, okay, number one, what's coming up in the community? Without a doubt, a lot of us who came off of that December challenge are in similar places. We're being affected very similarly. We're manifesting similarly. The things that are coming through, the tests that are coming through, obviously they vary of what the component is, but a lot of us are in a pretty similar space. So it's like, we know these are the things we want to share with our community for the next 6 months. Why don't we all totally go on this journey together, kicking it off with what we're going to be kicking off as the mid-year challenge. And the entirety of the mid-year challenge is how to be magnetic. We need to meet our magnetic self, see what that even really is. So, like, what's the difference, like we were talking about, between your ego-ish? I remember me when I was starting to discover my magnetic self, like you were saying, we hear people say your highest self, your integrated self, your whatever. It's all your magnetic self. So I remember when I was first going through the layers of it, the first magnetic selves that presented were still a little bit trauma-based. I would see that kind of in the community too that I got closer with at the time. They were still needing a lot of outside validation. And then there was sort of the ego self that was just a little bit less disguised from the trauma self, because the trauma self, when you're like, this is my magnetic self, but really it's just a lot of trauma projecting. It's pretty recognizable. And once you integrate that a little bit, so you're less triggered by the shadow, you're less judgmental, you start to kind of meet your ego magnetic self. It's the one that needs these things to be validated. And then you start to get into your magnetic self, which is, oh no, this is like my authentic self. I can hear from this place. I can see from this place. I can act from this place. So this mid-year challenge is really going to be levels of peeling in order to feel into what that is. It's going to be the subconscious work of it to get there. So basically, we're creating this roadmap of what we're all going to do in community for the next 6 months, launching with this challenge, the subconscious portion of really meeting your magnetic self. After that, we're going to move into the remedy, which is the how to be magnetic remedy. That's going to be what's going to be helping all of us peel off the energetic layers at the same time. The completely unconscious, don't know, gonna allow our spirit to get back into what magnetic means. That's the energetic magnetic portion. And then most exciting, we're going to be going on a speaking tour, Jessica and I. And that's going to be the expanded self around being magnetic. What are the actionables around this? So and that's going to all lead us into the end of the year challenge. So that's the direction we really want to take as a brand for the next 6 months. Let's go on this journey together since we all happen to be kind of in the same place. And once we're really understanding from a subconscious, energetic, actionable space of our magnetic self, we're going to go into that end of the year challenge and manifest from that place. So I'm really stoked. and as we were like getting ready to talk today about this space that we're in, this in-between space, to prepare for this challenge, I was going through what are my triggers coming up, my tests, my patterns, my pings, blah, blah, blah. That's doing the monthly check-in. And so the thing that I invite everybody to do before you start this mid-year challenge with us, do the monthly check-in really quickly, especially if you're in this in-between space, because you're going to get very, very clear on what the root is. What am I being called and asked of in the space that's from my authenticity, not from my ego? So that's my big actionable at this very moment. Do the monthly check-in really quickly to get clear on why you are in this in-between space, whether it's an up level, a rock bottom, a jumping off the cliff, a transition. Do the monthly check-in to get very clear on why before we go into this challenge.
It's so interesting too, because both of us were getting pings and downloads of like, this is one aspect or this is one aspect. And when it came together, we're like, oh my gosh, this is the roadmap, specifically the challenge in the first part of how to get people to move through the shedding of that old self and stepping into the new, because they have to understand, who the heck am I?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want? Why was I attached to those things that I don't really care about? Where is my ego coming into play? How do I know what's my ego and what's my true self? Where am I hiding? So many questions about like, how do I be seen? How can I feel comfortable being seen? What are you hiding? What's in your shadow? And we're going to take a look at every single pillar that is in the way from connecting with your true magnetic self, even on a somatic level. What does it feel like in your body to be in that state of magnetism? And it's so interesting because I remember, even when I first started working with the brand, I always, for some reason, when I thought about magnetic, I thought about magnetic means that the eyes are on me in the room. I draw people in. I'm confident. I think like Angelina Jolie, magnetic. And for some reason, there was a part of me that's like, I don't want that because that still feels like ego to me. So I couldn't understand why I would like want to tap into that energy because it still felt looking for the external validation. But through diving into this and really peeling back the layers and defining what is magnetic, what does that really mean? Yes, if eyes are on you, that may be the result of being magnetic, but the person who's magnetic doesn't give a shit if the eyes are on them or not.
Yes, yes. We had a big call on that recently. We were like, what is the energetic of when you are really tapped into your magnetic self? And it's this integration, this level of authenticity that you are actually like pretty humble. It doesn't mean you're meek or quiet. There is a gracefulness. There is a lack of dog paddling, a lack of ego grasping. It's because you are so in your worth, in your authenticity, and not in an egoic way, in a very, very gentle and graceful internal way. And I guess the real word I'm getting at is you're in peace. Like that's what the magnetic self is. It's your version of peace, pure consciousness, what you came onto the planet as, what you were born as before you had any system of pain, shame, or programming. The magnetic self is your level of peace and grace and being. And so I think a lot of people listening are probably like, oh, fuck yeah, no, I'm not in that. I'm not in that. And a lot of people that hear how to be magnetic or your magnetic self, it's really like what Jessica was saying. It's such a level of ego and attracting and drawing. And in fact, that's not the case at all. And I love getting clear on these energetics. I was voice noting with Jenna Zoe yesterday, who was like navigating, some stuff. And I was like, I think you're going through this. And I think if you do that, and it all, she obviously had those realizations too, and she did them. And then my favorite thing that she said, this is unrelated, but it just shows how when you can crystallize the energetic of what is actually happening versus your connotation of what something is, it's like you finally hold the keys to the process. So for her, for instance, she's like, isn't it crazy after all of that? And yeah, the thing's going to come through and I'm definitely going to get it. It's here. I'm like, oh, I don't even really care anymore. And it's so funny in manifestation, you hear like old manifestation rhetoric. You hear a lot when people are like, and just be in surrender, let it go. That's what they're talking about, but it's not being educated properly because a lot of people try to fake that. They try to just like, okay, I'm going to clear it out of my mind. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to be in detachment. And you can't fake that. You cannot fake that. And so it's very similar with being your magnetic self. You can't fake that. You can't pretend to be in grace and in humility and in peace. You can't fake that. It's something that you arrive at. And so that's why I think like the 6-month journey is so important, rather than this month we're going to focus on pings and this month we're going to go through this until we get to the challenge. We're like, no, man, we're all in a similar, even if you're not fully in this transition on a physical level, it might be on an energetic level. Let's go on this journey together because you can't fake your magnetic self. So like, let's dig into it in this challenge. If you're a pathway member, that's totally free. We're just going to fully dig into that together. Secondly, we're going to finally release the magnetic remedy, which people have had tremendous responses to the other 2 remedies. This one is going to be taking off those energetic layers so you can really feel into that energy of your authentic magnetic self. And then we're going to go on the tour where Jessica and I in person can walk you through this experience of the actionable pieces. So it's like, let's go on the 6-month journey where we don't fake the magnetic self. Like, let's arrive at the magnetic self from all angles. By now, you're starting to get the feel for TBM. Maybe you've heard about our workshops and you're interested in manifestation, but you just don't have the time or energy to sit down and do self-help work. We totally get it. In fact, that's why we created the Daily Practice, which is our massive library of self-hypnosis tracks that you can do anytime without having to jump into a workshop. We call these tracks our Deep Imaginings, or DIs. DIs are different than normal meditations because we designed them using a combination of self-hypnosis techniques, deep theta waves, EMDR-informed tools, and somatic experiencing. A fully loaded formula that is scientifically proven to help you clear your blocks and triggers on a subconscious level, giving you the power to actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So if your boss pisses you off, use our trigger DI. If you want to feel magnetic before a party or an important meeting, use the magnetic self DI. If you're feeling anxious or down on yourself or you need help making a decision, we've got a DI for all of these scenarios and more. You can get full access to the Daily Practice inside the Pathway membership, where you'll also get unlimited access to every workshop, tool, and offering from TBM. The tools in the Pathway membership will support you year-round, whether you're in the worst, a rock bottom, or second worst, a rut, or feeling good and you want to keep the magnetism going. In the Pathway, you'll effectively learn how to become your own manifestation coach, all for less than $1 a day. So even if you're not ready to start a workshop, join the pathway and start rewriting your neural pathways now to create magnetism. Work through your triggers and get closer to your authentic magnetic self in order to manifest.
And right now we have our big summer sale going on where you can spin the discount spinner and lock in one of the lowest rates of the season.
Now back to the episode.
This also helped me understand it too, which is that your magnetic self at your age, at your space and time right now is already inside of you.
Yes.
It's not on a pedestal that you're reaching up to, trying to get at. It is already inside. And so the goal with all of the work that we're going to be going on and examining and DIing and journal prompting and doing all these exercises is what is in the way? Why can't I see it? Where's that 5-year-old self coming up and taking the driver's seat? When is, the ego validation coming up saying, I'm only validated if I have XYZ external things? Where are you ashamed of part of yourself? That true magnetic self is not going to be ashamed. It's going to have compassion and love for those parts.
Yes, like those are the words of the magnetic self. It's graceful, it's humility, it's compassion. I think of my cousin a lot. This is a total tangent, but I remember this energy when I was little. His name's Keon. Like it makes me like emotional to talk about him because he's always been this. Like he's this angel on earth where he just came onto the planet in his humility, in his compassion, in his generosity, his love. Like that is the magnetic self. And so many of us are so afraid to be that because we have so much pain, shame, and programming. And that's been my expander for that. And when I can finally, like when I've reached my magnetic self and tapped into my magnetic self and I'm being it, I'm like, oh, that's the frequency of Keon. Like that's that. So when you hear magnetic and you're like, oh, it's ego and you're the person in the room, you're all eyes. I think of what's that song, Carly Simon, when it's like, you walk into the, that one,
Yeah.
like, you're so vain. That's probably
Yep.
what people think. And
Yes.
that is not the magnetic self. And I think this is just going to be an extremely beautiful journey for any of us, no matter where you are in your manifestation practice, where the brand is called How to Be Magnetic because I feel like so many people don't even understand that energy that you're arriving at. It's really how to be authentic. Who is your true, graceful, authentic self? From that place, you can manifest anything. So that's what the 6-month journey is going to be. Before, like, what were the stats of the last December challenge?
I think I still have the screenshot on my desktop because I was just so floored. 99.2% of people manifested our challenge last year.
And so every year, the end of the year challenge is how to manifest. And the mid-year challenge, this year is going to be how to be magnetic. The magnetic energetic we're talking about, like true authenticity, true peace, true humility, true compassion, that beautiful space that then aligns with everything you're calling in as we go into that end of the year, how to manifest challenge.
I think last year with the challenge, we really cracked the code in getting people to be accountable to themselves. And that's why the results bumped up even higher from the year before. I even saw some people like, cool, I'm here, but like, I don't really even need this anymore. Or like, wow, I'm on to the next. Or, you see the ego not selves starting to dance into it. And it's like, what is going to happen when everyone is manifesting from their current level of their magnetic self? Oh my gosh. Like that is what we're kind of all craving. Like whatever thing is on your manifestation list, I guarantee you're hoping that thing is getting you closer to the elements of your magnetic self. It has to be in tandem in some way. And what a beautiful tool to bring you back to your magnetic self by having these pillars of growth because we're humans and we need things on the physical plane.
Yes. And I think that something I'm personally craving, and I imagine maybe others are as well, if I am, and I think we are just like as a brand, I'm craving to go through an experience for an extended amount of time with my community, like to
Mm-hmm.
talk about it and be in it on the same page with the same goal. Because I think that's when we can start to really see greater shifts rather than these like siloed goals and things, like we've really throughout many years as a brand, it's been like, okay, now we're going to focus on tests because it's been a lot of education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of our content is sort of tight enough where it's like, now let's just get in community and go on this journey. And if we don't really know our magnetic self, and we haven't really tapped into our magnetic self, everything else is going to be fragmented. So it's like everything we've been talking about in this conversation, the in between, that place where you're like really learning what's ego and what's authentic. That's the base. The four pillars of authenticity are about everything is authenticity. So it's like, let's go on this 6-month journey together to really, really ground into our completely authentic magnetic self.
Oh, I can't wait. I want to start immediately.
Yeah, good ending point. I mean, we're lit up about it for sure.
I know. Everyone's going to be like, wait, I want to sign up right now. But we're launching on June 16th. So in the in between, just pay attention to what is coming up.
And do the monthly check-in. That's
Yeah.
so like, please, please, please do the monthly check-in before, because you're going to have a lot of clarity going into this mid-year challenge.
And everything that's coming up right now is part of the lesson. It is part of what you need to learn at this chapter, at this stage of your life to evolve to the next version of you. So just be witness to it. Let it come up, feel your feelings, use the DI when you need, but like just say, okay, I accept that this is the experience coming up. And then once we get into the challenge, it's like, cool, what do I need to learn here and how can I evolve?
And yeah, how can I move some energy?
Mm-hmm.
One piece I'm most excited that we can tease for the challenge. It's a piece that I use in my personal practice a lot as somebody who's had the rug pulled out from under me a ton. One of my favorite steps that will be in there with a deep there will be new deep imaginings, just so people know that you have that to look forward to, that are with the somatic experiencing the EMDR informed a lot of like new key fun things in it. But one piece to tease that I love that brings my fear of the rug being pulled out from under me, the in-between space. I love the concept of what's the worst that could happen. And you have like a really fun new tool in there to look forward to. I'm really excited about that piece. Because if you're in this space where you're like, yeah, this all sounds great, whatever. I love that piece. Like really, really digging into what's the worst that could happen of the space that I'm in right now.
It's true non-attachment. Like whenever I've been in this space where I'm like, holy shit, the rug's getting pulled out, I am grasping onto that thing or I was grasping onto that thing energetically. And I have to be like, whoa, okay, I need to take a step back and really process this. And now you guys will have a DI to do all of that processing in and return back to baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. Being safe again.
Yes. All about the safety.
All about the safety.
Oh, amazing. Well, we're so excited to go on this journey with you all. And just know if you are navigating any of these things coming up, if you are in the transition, if you don't feel like your magnetic self, if you feel far away from your purpose or what is calling to you, you are so not alone. And we are going to hold your hand and walk you through it.
Yes. Amen.
Well, have a great week and we'll see you next week. I hope you all enjoyed that episode as much as we did. And if you're starting to get a feel for this to be magnetic manifestation process, but aren't completely sold yet, let me point you to some of our free offerings. You can check out the expanded podcast episode called How to Manifest Anything You Desire, where Lacy, the founder, and I break down exactly what this process is all about. You can check out The Motivation, which is our testimonial library with thousands of testimonials of people who have manifested wild things using this process. Or you can check out our free mini workshop to find out why you're not manifesting and listen to one of our proprietary deep imagining audios where it's going to help you drop into your theta state and overwrite low self-worth limiting beliefs. Enjoy. We'll see you next week.